The galaxy trembled as news spread like wildfire. Zarak was coming. Her name alone was enough to send entire civilizations into hiding. Her reputation for destruction was legendary. Zarak, the being of unimaginable power, had left a trail of ruined worlds behind her. Species from every corner of the galaxy knew to stay out of her path. No one was brave enough to challenge her. Zarak wasn't just any alien. She was a force of nature. Unlike the peaceful races that populated most of the galaxy, she had been born from a warrior race, raised to conquer and destroy. For centuries, Zarak had roamed the stars, leaving scorched planets and broken empires in her wake. Even the most powerful alien fleets had learned the hard way not to provoke her. Every confrontation with Zarak had ended the same way, with a smoldering ruin where once a thriving civilization stood. But now, she had arrived at the outer rim. The galaxy watched, terrified. The galactic leaders, once so confident in their strength, now cowered before her. All planets had shut their doors, sending ships to the farthest corners of space, hoping Zarak would lose interest and leave them alone. Among the chaos, however, one name was rising, a name that was known not for fear, but for courage. Captain Jack Davis, a young human from Earth, was the last person anyone expected to stand against Zarak. Unlike the great warriors, diplomats, and strategists of the galaxy, Jack was a simple captain of a small Earth ship. He had no special powers, no advanced alien technology, and no incredible fighting skills. He wasn't even the strongest or smartest. But what Jack had, no one else could match: his courage. Jack had always been a man of action. As Earth's leading explorer and negotiator, he was known for taking on the missions that others deemed impossible. He had spent years negotiating with hostile alien species, exploring unknown worlds, and fighting off space pirates. He had always believed that humanity, with its resourcefulness and willpower, could overcome any obstacle. But this was something different. This wasn't just about overcoming an enemy. It was about surviving the impossible. The United Earth Coalition had tried everything they could think of to deal with Zarak. Their most skilled diplomats had failed. Their most advanced weapons had been useless. The galactic powers had all given up hope of stopping her. So when Jack was selected for the mission to deal with Zarak, many thought it was a suicide mission, a last-ditch effort that would end in failure. But to Jack, it wasn't about survival. It was about giving Earth a fighting chance. "I'll talk to her," Jack had said, standing in front of the council. "I'll offer her something no one else has. I don't know if it will work, but I'm willing to try." The room had fallen silent. No one dared question his decision. The best minds of Earth had already failed, so perhaps it was time to try something new. Jack was given a small ship, an old Earth-class cruiser, and a one-way ticket to meet Zarak. As his ship traveled through space, Jack couldn't help but wonder what awaited him. The galaxy had painted Zarak as a monster, untouchable, merciless, and unstoppable. But Jack wasn't afraid. He had studied her. He knew her history, and above all, he knew something that others didn't. Zarak wasn't just a destroyer. She was a leader, a ruler who had once been feared, but who was now a lone figure wandering the stars. He believed there was more to her than just destruction. He believed that beneath the fearsome exterior, there was a mind capable of understanding. He just had to find it. Finally, Jack's ship arrived at the coordinates where Zarak's presence had been detected. He could feel the tension in the air as his ship approached the planet's atmosphere. The planet, once a thriving civilization, had been reduced to ruins. Mountains were shattered, oceans boiled, and cities lay in crumbling heaps. The destruction was overwhelming, but Jack didn't flinch. He didn't let fear take hold. He landed his ship near the remnants of an ancient city, hoping for an audience. Zarak was waiting for him. She stood tall, her presence radiating power, her alien eyes cold and piercing. She was a towering figure, with skin that shimmered like polished obsidian, and hair like flowing silver threads. Her armor, engraved with strange symbols, marked her as a warrior of great standing. The remnants of her enemies lay around her, evidence of her strength. And yet, she didn't attack. She only observed Jack, curious. Jack stepped forward, his heart steady despite the danger surrounding him. He knew this was a risk, but he wasn't going to back down. He spoke clearly and confidently, his voice carrying across the empty city. "Zarak," Jack said, "I know what you want. I can help you." For a moment, Zarak said nothing. She just watched him, her expression unreadable. Jack stood his ground, knowing that his words were his only weapon. And so, the first human to face Zarak, the most feared being in the galaxy, began what would become a conversation that would change the course of history. Captain Jack Davis stood in the ruins of an ancient alien city, facing Zarak. The vast landscape, scared by her destructive path, stretched endlessly behind her. Even with all the evidence of her power, Jack wasn't intimidated. His heart was calm, and his mind was focused. For him, this wasn't just a mission. It was a chance to show the galaxy that humanity could face the impossible. Zarak's presence was overwhelming. She was taller than any human he had ever seen, with skin as black as the night and glowing eyes that seemed to pierce through him. Her armor was a reflection of her strength, sharp, intricate, and designed for war. But despite her fierce appearance, Jack could sense something else beneath the surface: curiosity. It was as if she was waiting for him to make the first move. "You speak of helping me," Zarak finally said, her voice deep and resonant. "But what can you, a mere human, offer that would interest me?" Jack didn't hesitate. "I can help you find what you seek," he said, his voice firm but calm. "You came here for the artifact, the one that has the power to change everything. The galaxy trembles because of it. But I know where it is, and I can help you get it." Zarak raised an eyebrow. The mention of the artifact was the first thing to truly catch her attention. It was an object of immense power, capable of bending reality itself. Many had searched for it, but none had found it. Most believed it to be nothing more than a legend. But Zarak knew better. If anyone could find it, it would be someone like her, someone with the strength to wield it. Yet this human was speaking with such confidence. "You would dare approach me for something so valuable?" Zarak asked, her voice almost amused. "Your kind is not known for such boldness." Jack nodded slowly. "Humanity isn't known for being the strongest or the oldest, but we're clever. We have a way of solving problems. If you'll let me help you, we can find the artifact together. And if you spare Earth, we'll make sure you have all the power you want." Zarak's eyes narrowed as she considered his offer. She had destroyed entire worlds before, taking what she needed without question. But Jack's words had given her pause. There was something different about him, a confidence that didn't come from fear or desperation, but from a deep belief in his people and their abilities. "I've destroyed worlds for much less," she said, her voice low. "What makes you think I should trust you?" Jack looked directly into her eyes. "Because unlike the others who have faced you, I'm not afraid. I understand fear, but I don't let it control me. I know your reputation, Zarak, but I also know you're not just a mindless force of destruction. You're a leader. You want something more than just to crush and conquer." Zarak was silent for a moment. She had never heard such words spoken to her before. Most beings who crossed her path begged for mercy or offered threats, but Jack was speaking to her as an equal, not as someone to be feared. That was something she hadn't expected. In all her centuries of conquest, no one had ever dared to see her this way. "You believe I'm a leader?" she asked, her voice quiet now, almost thoughtful. "I do," Jack replied. "I believe you have the power to change things, but only if you choose to. You don't have to destroy everything in your path. I'm offering you a chance to work together. Humanity isn't perfect, but we have something that might interest you, something you don't have to take by force." Zarak tilted her head, studying him carefully. She had always believed that power was the only language worth understanding. But this human was speaking in a way she had never encountered before. Was he right? Could there be more to her than just the destruction that had defined her existence? "I don't need your help to destroy," Zarak said, her tone still cold. "But I'm curious. What is it you believe humanity can offer me?" Jack took a deep breath. This was the moment he had been preparing for. "You've been alone for so long," he said. "All the other species you've encountered, they feared you. They didn't try to understand you. But humans, we don't fear you. We want to know you. We want to help you see that there's more than just destruction. You have the power to do more. To build, not just break." Zarak stared at him for a long time. Her expression remained unreadable. For a moment, Jack wondered if he had said too much or too little. But then, Zarak spoke again. "You are strange," she said with a small, almost imperceptible smile. "I've never met anyone like you. Perhaps your kind is more interesting than I thought." Jack smiled back. He knew this was just the beginning, and the road ahead was uncertain. But for the first time, he felt that he might be making some headway. The galaxy had painted Zarak as an unstoppable monster, but Jack had dared to see something else, something that even Zarak herself might not have fully realized. "You don't have to trust me completely," Jack said, "but you can trust one thing. Humanity is here to stay. And we'll do whatever it takes to make sure Earth survives. All I ask is for a chance." Zarak didn't answer right away. Instead, she stepped closer to him, her towering form casting a shadow over him. She looked down at him with those piercing eyes. "Very well, human," she said, her voice now quieter, more thoughtful. "You have earned the right to prove your words. Lead the way." The air was thick with the weight of expectation as Captain Jack Davis and Zarak walked together across the desolate ruins of the ancient city. Behind them, Jack's small Earth-class ship sat quietly, a speck of human ingenuity amidst the destruction. The ground was still warm from the fires that Zarak had set during her previous rampage, and the air smelled faintly of ash and dust. Jack glanced up at the towering alien before him, wondering what the next few hours would hold. He had taken the first step. He had broken the ice. But the real test was just beginning. Zarak was a being unlike anything he had ever faced. Her power radiated from her, and even in her moments of silence, there was an intensity that made the very air tremble. But Jack wasn't afraid, not anymore. He had come here with one purpose: to show her that humans weren't just afraid of her. They had something to offer. He hoped his words had struck a chord. They reached a flat plateau, a perfect place to sit and talk, and Jack gestured for Zarak to sit. She did so, her movements as graceful as they were intimidating. Jack sat down across from her, keeping his gaze steady. Zarak didn't take her eyes off him. "So," Zarak began, her voice breaking the silence, "you say you know where the artifact is hidden. Tell me, human, how do you know this?" Jack took a deep breath, his mind racing. The artifact was a relic of an ancient civilization, said to be hidden on a distant planet that no one had dared explore in centuries. Legends spoke of its ability to change the fabric of reality itself. Even Zarak, for all her power, had only heard rumors. But Jack knew the truth. Earth had discovered the artifact's location, hidden away in a place where no one would think to look. "I've been on a mission for years," Jack began. "When Earth learned of the artifact, we began searching for it, tracking down every clue we could find. We didn't just want it for power. We wanted to understand it, to learn from it. Humanity believes that knowledge is more powerful than just raw strength." Zarak's eyes glinted with interest. "So you believe the artifact can be used to understand?" she asked, her tone skeptical. Jack nodded. "Yes. We found clues that suggest the artifact holds not just power, but answers to questions we've been asking for centuries. Questions about the origins of the galaxy, about life itself. If we unlock its secrets, we can change the course of history." Zarak was silent for a long moment. Her gaze never left Jack, and he could feel the weight of her scrutiny. The wind shifted around them, swirling the dust in the air. Despite the calm, Jack could sense that she was weighing his every word, every movement. "Your people want knowledge," Zarak said slowly. "And yet you offer me nothing more than promises." Jack met her eyes, his voice firm. "I offer you a partnership. If you help us find the artifact, you'll have access to everything we know. You'll have the knowledge of an entire species, our history, our science, everything." Zarak's eyes narrowed. She leaned forward slightly, her intense gaze fixed on him. "And what would you ask in return, human?" Jack paused for a moment. This was the moment he had been preparing for. He had to choose his words carefully. "We want Earth to be safe. That's all. We want to ensure that no one, can destroy it. If you help us, you'll have an ally in humanity. You'll have a world that will stand with you, not against you." Zarak studied him, the silence between them stretching longer than it ever had before. She wasn't used to being spoken to in such a way. Most beings, when they saw her power, immediately bent the knee, begging for mercy or attempting to manipulate her with threats. But Jack was different. He wasn't afraid of her power. He wasn't even trying to convince her with fear. He was offering something far more powerful: trust. "You ask for much," Zarak said finally, her voice calm, but filled with an underlying strength. "But you are different, human. Most would have tried to bargain with threats. You do not. It is intriguing." Jack kept his expression neutral. He couldn't let her see how much this meant to him. "I'm not asking for much. Just a chance. A chance to prove that we can work together, that humanity isn't like the other races you've encountered. We don't have to be enemies." Zarak's gaze softened slightly. It was the first time in their conversation that she had shown anything resembling vulnerability. But it was fleeting. In the blink of an eye, her cold demeanor returned. She stood up, towering over him once again. "Very well," she said. "I will help you. But understand this, human. I do not make alliances lightly. If you fail, if you lie to me, I will destroy you. I will destroy your planet. I will not give you a second chance." Jack stood as well, meeting her gaze without flinching. "I understand, but I'm not here to lie to you. I'm here to work with you, and I won't fail." Zarak looked at him for a long time before turning away. "We will see," she said, her voice carrying a weight that sent a shiver down Jack's spine. "Lead the way, Captain. Show me that your people are worthy of this partnership." As they began walking toward the ship, Jack's heart raced. He had just made a deal with one of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. But for the first time in his life, he felt a flicker of hope. He wasn't sure where this path would lead, but he knew one thing for certain. He had just taken the first step toward changing the fate of humanity. The journey had begun. Jack Davis and Zarak, an unlikely pair, were now traveling through space in Jack's small Earth-class cruiser. The vastness of the galaxy stretched out before them, and despite the tension between them, Jack felt an unusual sense of purpose. He had never imagined he would be working with someone like Zarak, a being so powerful that entire fleets of ships had failed to stop her. Yet here they were, on a mission to find the legendary artifact that could change the galaxy. As the ship cut through the stars, Jack couldn't help but glance at Zarak. She sat across from him, her massive frame seemingly at ease despite the cramped quarters of the ship. Her glowing eyes flicked over the control panels and star maps, but she remained silent. Jack had learned that she was a creature of few words, preferring actions over conversation. Still, her presence was imposing, and Jack couldn't shake the feeling that she was constantly analyzing him. "This artifact," Zarak finally spoke, her voice low and thoughtful. "Why is it so important to your people?" Jack looked up from the ship's controls, meeting her gaze. "It's not just about power. It's about knowledge. The artifact holds the key to understanding things humanity has wondered about for centuries: how the galaxy was formed, where life comes from, and how we can better use our resources. We don't want to use it to destroy. We want to learn from it." Zarak's expression remained unreadable. Knowledge is a dangerous thing, she said. Many have sought power in the name of understanding. I've seen what happens when knowledge falls into the wrong hands. People destroy, enslave, and conquer in the name of progress. Jack nodded slowly. I understand. But not all knowledge leads to destruction. Humans have learned from our mistakes. We don't want to repeat the mistakes of the past. We want to use what we find to build, not to break. Zarak leaned back in her seat, her eyes narrowing slightly. You speak of your kind as if you have learned everything. But the galaxy is full of mysteries. Many civilizations believed they were the ones who held the answers. And yet, in the end, they fell. What makes you so sure that humanity will not fall the same way? Jack thought for a moment before answering. Because we have hope. We fight for the future. Even when things look impossible, we keep moving forward. And that's why I'm willing to work with you. I know that if we stand together, we can accomplish something greater than any one of us could alone. Zarak looked at him, a flicker of something, perhaps curiosity, perhaps respect, flashing in her eyes. For the first time, Jack felt like he was getting through to her, even if only a little. The ship continued its journey, jumping from one star system to another. Each jump took them farther from Earth, farther from the safety of known space. But Jack wasn't worried. He had confidence in the ship and the team of engineers who had built it. What he worried about more was the path ahead. Finding the artifact would not be easy, and Zarak's power, while helpful, was unpredictable. He wasn't sure what would happen when they arrived at the planet that held the artifact's secret. As they neared their destination, the mood shifted. Zarak stood and walked over to the small viewing window, gazing out at the dark expanse of space. The planet was just ahead, its surface covered in thick clouds that obscured what lay beneath. We are almost there, Jack said, adjusting the controls. Zarak said nothing. Her attention was focused entirely on the planet ahead. It wasn't a world anyone had ever explored, too far out, too dangerous, and too mysterious. For centuries, the planet had been a place of myths and legends, but now it was the only lead they had. Jack slowed the ship's approach, carefully maneuvering it through the dense atmosphere. The clouds parted as they descended, revealing jagged mountains and deep canyons below. The landscape was harsh, almost uninhabitable. There were no signs of life, no traces of civilizations past, only the remnants of something ancient, something that had been hidden away for centuries. This is where it all began, Jack muttered to himself as he prepared for landing. The place where the artifact was hidden. Zarak turned to him, her eyes sharp. What makes you so certain it's here? I studied the maps, the ancient texts, Jack replied. This is the location the clues pointed to. If we're wrong, then we've come this far for nothing. But if we're right, the ship touched down with a slight jolt, settling on the rocky surface of the planet. A low hum filled the cabin as the engines powered down. Jack's hands trembled slightly as he unstrapped himself from his seat. They had made it. The real challenge was about to begin. Zarak stood tall beside him. Let us see if your knowledge proves correct, human. With that, the two of them made their way to the airlock. Jack grabbed his gear, securing it tightly, and opened the hatch. Cold, thin air rushed into the ship as they stepped outside. The barren landscape stretched out before them, the vast wilderness untouched by time. In the distance, a massive structure loomed, a ruined city, its crumbling walls standing as a reminder of a civilization long forgotten. Jack's heart raced as he looked at Zarak. This is it. The artifact is inside that city. Zarak said nothing, but Jack could see the glint of determination in her eyes. Together, they walked toward the ruins. There was no turning back now. They were about to uncover the secrets of an ancient world, and with it, the future of the galaxy. The ancient city loomed in the distance, its towering, crumbling structures barely visible through the thick fog that surrounded it. Jack Davis and Zarak walked toward the ruins with steady steps, the silence of the landscape weighing heavily on them. It was as if the planet itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The air felt thick, almost oppressive, and Jack couldn't help but glance nervously at Zarak. Her expression was unreadable, but he could tell she was alert, as always. "Do you feel it?" Jack asked, his voice barely a whisper. "This place, it's like it's alive, in a way." Zarak didn't reply right away. She scanned the ruins with a sharp gaze, taking in every detail. The city was unlike anything Jack had seen before. Stone structures built with strange patterns and designs that didn't resemble anything from known civilizations. The architecture was grand, but decayed, as if time had forgotten this place long ago. "I feel the weight of its history," Zarak finally said, her voice low and distant. "It holds secrets and dangers. We are not the first to seek what lies beneath." Jack nodded, remembering the stories he'd read. Countless explorers had come before them, all hoping to find the artifact hidden deep within the city. None had returned. The legends surrounding the artifact were as old as the stars themselves, and many believed it was cursed. But Jack was determined to find it. He had no choice but to believe in the possibility that this artifact could change everything for humanity. As they approached the entrance of the city, Jack felt his heart racing. He had come so far, and now they were standing at the threshold of something ancient and powerful. Zarak moved ahead of him, her steps silent but strong. She wasn't afraid. She never showed fear. Jack admired that about her, but he couldn't help but feel a bit of uncertainty creeping into his mind. "I'll go first," Jack said, breaking the silence. "Stay close." Zarak gave him a small nod, her eyes scanning the surroundings. She didn't need to be told to stay close. She was always ready for whatever came next. As Jack stepped through the broken doorway, a cold gust of wind swept past them, carrying with it the scent of decay and dust. The inside of the city was dark, with only faint glimmers of light from cracks in the walls. Jack activated his flashlight, its beam cutting through the gloom. The air felt heavy, as if the very walls of the city were watching them. The silence was almost suffocating. Jack moved carefully, his footsteps echoing in the emptiness. Zarak followed closely, her presence almost a shadow behind him. Her quiet footsteps were barely noticeable. "There's something here," Jack muttered, glancing around the dim corridors. "I can feel it." Zarak didn't respond, but Jack could tell she was sensing it too. There was a strange energy in the air, a tingling sensation that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. He had no idea what it was, but it was unlike anything he'd ever experienced. They reached a large chamber, its ceiling high and supported by tall, cracked columns. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, its surface covered in intricate symbols and patterns. It looked ancient, older than anything Jack had ever seen. The room seemed to hum with a faint energy, and Jack couldn't help but feel a pull toward it. "That's it," Jack said, his voice barely above a whisper. "That's where the artifact is." Zarak stepped forward, her eyes narrowing as she studied the pedestal. She reached out, touching the symbols with the tips of her fingers. A faint glow flickered across the surface, but nothing else happened. Jack watched her carefully, waiting for any sign of what would come next. "Is it safe?" Jack asked, his voice unsure. Zarak turned to him, her expression hard to read. "This place holds many dangers, but I will not let anything stop us now." Without warning, Zarak placed her hand fully on the pedestal. A sudden surge of energy filled the room, and the air around them seemed to crackle. The ground beneath their feet trembled as the symbols on the pedestal began to glow brighter, illuminating the chamber with an eerie light. "What is happening?" Jack asked, his voice rising in alarm. Zarak didn't answer. She stood frozen, her hand still on the pedestal, her body tensing as the energy pulsed around them. The room seemed to be alive, the walls vibrating with power. Jack took a step back, his instincts telling him to be cautious, but Zarak remained where she was, unyielding. Then, with a sudden burst of light, the pedestal split open, revealing the hidden compartment. Inside, resting on a bed of what looked like crystal, was a small object, a sphere glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. Jack's heart skipped a beat. "That's it," he breathed. "That's the artifact." Zarak stepped forward and slowly lifted the sphere. As her fingers touched it, the room grew quieter, the energy dissipating. For a moment, everything was still. Then, a deep voice, as ancient as the city itself, echoed through the chamber. "Who dares to disturb the peace of the forgotten city?" Jack looked around, his heart racing. The voice didn't come from any one place. It seemed to come from everywhere, reverberating through the walls, through the air, and deep within his chest. Zarak didn't flinch. She held the artifact in her hand, her gaze unshaken. "We seek knowledge," Zarak said, her voice strong and unwavering. "Not destruction." The voice fell silent, and for a moment, Jack thought nothing would happen. But then, a soft rumble shook the ground beneath their feet. The walls of the chamber began to shift, revealing hidden pathways leading deeper into the ruins. It was as if the city was alive again, waking from a long slumber. "We are not alone," Zarak muttered, her eyes scanning the shifting walls. "This place is far more than we thought." Jack felt a wave of both excitement and fear. The artifact had been found, but this was only the beginning. Whatever lay ahead in the depths of the city, it would change everything. The chamber rumbled as the ancient walls shifted, revealing dark corridors leading deep into the heart of the forgotten city. The soft glow from the artifact in Zarak's hand illuminated the space around them, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch and twist as if they had a mind of their own. Jack stood still, his heart pounding in his chest. The air was thick with anticipation. What they had just uncovered was only the beginning. He could feel it. Zarak turned to Jack, her eyes narrowed, scanning the new passages. "The city is awakening," she said, her voice calm but filled with a sense of urgency. "We must move forward. There is no turning back." Jack nodded. He had known this moment would come, but he wasn't prepared for the sheer weight of it. They had found the artifact, but something told him the real challenge was only just beginning. Together, they walked down the newly revealed path, the walls glowing faintly as the artifact's power seemed to resonate throughout the ruins. Each step they took echoed in the quiet, broken only by the soft hum of the sphere in Zarak's hand. As they ventured deeper, the corridors grew tighter and more oppressive. The air became heavier, thick with the scent of ancient dust and forgotten history. Jack's flashlight flickered, and for a moment, the darkness seemed to close in on them. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Suddenly, the path opened up into another large chamber. This one was different from the others. The floor was covered in strange markings, and towering statues lined the walls. They were figures of beings Jack had never seen before, their faces frozen in expressions of intense concentration, as though they were watching something far beyond this place. In the center of the room was another pedestal, similar to the one they had seen earlier. But this time, it wasn't empty. On the pedestal lay a massive stone tablet, its surface covered in glowing symbols that seemed to shift as they moved closer. "This is it," Jack breathed, his eyes wide. "This is what we were looking for." Zarak stepped forward, her eyes locked on the tablet. She raised the artifact high, and the room seemed to respond. The symbols on the tablet flickered to life, their glow growing brighter with each passing second. A low, resonant hum filled the air, vibrating through the floor and into Jack's bones. "What is happening?" Jack asked, his voice tense. Zarak's gaze never left the tablet. "It is speaking," she said softly. "The artifact is connecting with the knowledge in this city. It is unlocking something." The symbols on the tablet began to move faster now, swirling and shifting in a dance of ancient energy. The room trembled, the very foundation of the city seeming to awaken after centuries of silence. A voice, deep and echoing, resonated through the chamber. "Who dares disturb the peace of the ancients?" The voice boomed, shaking the air. "You seek what is buried, but you are unprepared for the truth." Jack's heart raced. "We're ready," he said, though even he wasn't sure what he meant. The weight of the voice seemed to press down on him, but he refused to back down. The voice chuckled, low and rumbling. "Ready? You seek knowledge, but knowledge is not a gift. It is a burden. Only those worthy may understand what lies within these walls." Zarak stepped forward, holding the artifact high. "We seek no power, no dominion," she said firmly. "We only wish to learn." The room fell silent for a long moment. Then, with a great tremor, the stone tablet shifted, its surface glowing brighter than ever before. The walls around them began to crack, revealing images of distant stars, forgotten civilizations, and powerful energies. It was as though the entire history of the galaxy was being laid out before their eyes. Jack's breath caught in his throat. The vision before him was breathtaking. Entire galaxies being born, civilizations rising and falling in an endless cycle of creation and destruction. He saw flashes of beings unlike anything he had ever imagined, ancient species whose knowledge was beyond comprehension. But amidst the beauty of it all, there was also something dark. A shadow seemed to move through the visions, a reminder that not all knowledge came with a price. Zarak's voice broke through Jack's thoughts. "This is more than we expected," she whispered. "This is the true history of the galaxy." The voice spoke again, this time softer, almost as if it was acknowledging their presence. "You have seen the past," it said. "Now you must decide the future." Jack looked at Zarak, his mind racing. "What does that mean?" he asked, though he feared the answer. The tablet's symbols began to pulse, glowing brighter still. The room was filled with a brilliant light, and Jack felt as if he was being pulled into the vision itself. He saw the past, the rise of ancient empires, the first great wars between civilizations, and the moment when the artifact was hidden away to prevent its power from falling into the wrong hands. And then the vision shifted. The future flashed before his eyes. Humans, Zarak's species, and others working together to unlock the secrets of the artifact. But there was a price. The knowledge would come with a terrible cost. To gain power, they would have to sacrifice something precious. The light faded, and the room returned to its former state. The tablet was still, its glow dimming. "What did you see?" Zarak asked quietly, her voice filled with uncertainty. Jack took a deep breath. "I saw the future," he said slowly, "and it's not as simple as we thought. The knowledge, it comes with a choice that could change everything." Zarak looked at him, her expression unreadable. "What choice?" Jack turned to the pedestal, his mind spinning with the weight of what he had just witnessed. "The artifact will give us what we want, but there's a cost, and I'm not sure we're ready to pay it." Zarak looked at the tablet, her eyes searching for answers. "Then we must prepare. The truth is not something that can be ignored." Jack nodded. The journey ahead would be even more dangerous than he had imagined. But there was no turning back now. The chamber was still. The air was thick with the weight of the knowledge they had uncovered, and Jack Davis could feel it pressing on him. The glowing tablet before him seemed to pulse with energy, as if it was alive, waiting for something. Zarak stood by his side, her expression unreadable, her eyes locked on the tablet. They both knew that what came next would determine the future of the galaxy, and neither of them was sure if they were ready for what lay ahead. "We've seen the future," Jack said quietly, his voice almost lost in the silence. "The artifact offers us knowledge, power, but it also asks for a price. And that price could be too much to bear." Zarak turned to face him, her eyes hard but not unkind. "I saw the same thing," she said. "The power to shape the future, the choice to guide the galaxy, but also the risk of destroying everything. I have seen civilizations rise and fall because of power. The cost is real." Jack took a deep breath, his mind racing with the implications. The artifact had shown them the future where humanity, Zarak's people, and many others worked together to unlock the ancient knowledge. But that vision had come with a dark twist. The knowledge they sought would change the balance of power in the galaxy, and with it came the potential for chaos. "Do we take it?" Jack asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Do we take the knowledge, knowing what it could do, knowing the cost?" Zarak stepped closer, her presence like a shield, strong and unwavering. "You are human, Jack Davis. Your people have always chosen the path of hope, even in the face of great danger. If anyone can make this decision, it is you." Jack shook his head, feeling the weight of her words. "But I'm not sure it's my decision alone anymore. The future isn't just mine to shape. It belongs to everyone." Zarak's gaze softened for a moment, and for the first time, Jack saw something like respect in her eyes. "Then we will shape it together," she said, her voice steady. The room seemed to grow colder, the glow from the tablet now casting strange shadows along the walls. Jack felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility, but also something else, a feeling of clarity. The choice was in his hands, but it was not a burden he would bear alone. "I've seen what power can do," Jack said, his voice firm. "And I've seen what happens when we misuse it. But the galaxy is full of people who want peace, who want to build, not destroy. If we have the chance to guide the galaxy toward something better, then we have to take it. But we must do it with caution. We must ensure that the knowledge we gain doesn't corrupt us." Zarak nodded slowly. "Agreed. The artifact must not fall into the wrong hands. Its power could bring salvation or destruction. But if we use it wisely, it could change everything." Jack turned back to the pedestal, his mind made up. The decision was clear. They would take the knowledge, but they would protect it. They would ensure that it was used for the good of all, not for domination or control. As he reached out to touch the tablet, the voice of the ancient city spoke once more, this time without the rumbling echoes it had carried before. The voice was softer, almost calm. "You have made your choice," it said. "The knowledge is yours. But remember, every gift comes with a cost. The power to shape the future lies within your hands, but so too does the potential to destroy it. Choose wisely." Jack's hand trembled as he placed it on the tablet. The glowing symbols flared to life once more, brighter and more intense than before. The energy in the room surged, and for a moment, Jack felt as if he was being pulled into the very core of the artifact's power. It was overwhelming, but he stood firm, his resolve stronger than ever. Then, as quickly as it had started, the light faded. The tablet went still, its symbols dimming, and the room returned to its previous quiet state. "It is done," Zarak said quietly, her voice full of both relief and uncertainty. "We have made the choice. Now, we must live with it." Jack nodded, stepping back from the pedestal. He could feel the weight of the decision pressing on him, but also a sense of hope. They had chosen the path of wisdom, the path of caution, and now it was up to them to guide the galaxy toward a better future. "Let's go," Jack said, turning to Zarak. "We have a long road ahead of us. The knowledge we've gained will need to be shared, but it must be shared with care." Zarak stood beside him, her eyes steady and focused. "We will protect it, together." They left the chamber behind, the echoes of their footsteps mingling with the fading hum of the artifact. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: they were not alone. Together, they would face whatever challenges came their way. Together, they would ensure that the future they shaped was one of hope, not fear. The galaxy had always been full of mysteries, but now, Jack and Zarak had the power to unlock its greatest secrets. The knowledge they had gained was more than just a weapon. It was a responsibility. And with that responsibility came the promise of a future that could be brighter than any they had ever imagined. But the future was never certain, and the cost of the knowledge they carried was yet to be fully understood. Still, as they walked into the unknown, Jack knew one thing for sure: the journey had only just begun.